So quality always plays a role when creating a machine readable code, and that's what a barcode is, right? It's simply something that a machine is intending to read, whether a handheld scanner or a fixed scanner as something passes by a scanning point. So that brings us to this question around verification and validation of the IUID mark to make sure that the quality standards are being met. Just to avoid any confusion when you're using those two references, tell me about the difference between validation and verification and why that's important.
Well, you need both in order to produce or be supplied a fully compliant MIL Standard 130 label. Again, we're talking about audit readiness. So when those auditors come knocking at your door and they're checking your compliance, they're not just looking to see if you have the label, they're looking to see if that label is compliant as well. And in order to achieve that level, you need to do a validation and a verification process of the label. So let's talk about the differences. The validation, like we have here, is the format or is the spelling, quote unquote, correct. And what we mean by that is the actual data. For a compliant label, the data, your part number, your serial number, can only consist of a alpha or numeric character, letter or number, or you could use a dash or a /. Those four types are all considered compliant under the MIL Standard 130 clause. Now, if your part number serial number has any other character, a £, an ampersand, parentheses, even a space, those are all considered non-compliant. So you have two options if that is the case. One, you simply remove the non-compliant character, or you replace it with a compliant character. My recommendation would be, if you have a non-compliant character in either of those, replace it with a dash. That way you're keeping the same number of characters in the part or serial number. Sometimes there's a tendency with some companies, if your part number is always, let's say, 6 characters, and then someone sees it's only 5, it'll draw a red flag. So by putting in the dash, it keeps that same characterization. And the second piece of this is the verification. The 2D data matrix barcode that goes on these labels, that is created from your data. So once the data is validated, now the software is going to create that 2D barcode. That barcode needs to be readable. And in order for it to be readable and meet the quality standard, it has to have a certain quality grade of a B or better. Either an A or a B would be considered compliant. So the tool that's used to identify both of these requirements, validation and verification, is the verifier. Very, very important process to get you to compliance. It's more than just printing the label. The verifier is the tool that gets you past the validation and verification process.